Okay, good morning, ladies and gents. Good morning. There we go now. I can hear myself and you guys can hear me again. Good morning. You guys excited about being here this morning? Okay, I know that at the moment your bed might be feeling a longing towards you as its companion. Your friends as well, sitting at home and chilling and relaxing. Okay? But welcome to our guys that signed in via the live streaming, via the videos. Welcome to you guys. Welcome to you guys that's here joining us. For those of you that haven't met me before, my name is Sarel van Grienen, okay, aka Mr. VG. Because for some reason, you guys, the English guys, and the van Grienen is a bit of a difficult thing. And I fully get that. No judging. There's forgiveness today. Okay. Ladies and gents, I know that we are here for the Maths Winter School. And I'm excited, at least. At least that makes half of us excited. Okay? Now, sir, that maths doesn't make sense. It's okay. I'll explain later on how that maths makes sense in my head. But ladies and gentlemen, when I look at this week, I am going to humbly apologize straight from the get-go. I cannot go through your whole syllabus in 5 days. Let's get it real in 10 hours. Because that's all that this winter school is going to be. 5 days, 2 hours per day. Guys, unfortunately for some reason, I won't be able to go through 2 years worth of work in 10 hours. For some reason. So what I've done is, this is a bit different than a normal winter school in the sense of, I'm not just going to stand here and do theory and give you guys all of these things. I would like us to actually go past that. I would like, in this 5 days, I would like to kickstart your maths for the rest of the year. How does that sound to you guys? Okay. Does that sound great? Okay. Now, I want to ask you guys, who's willing to put their reputation on the line by telling me, why are you here this week? Yes, why do you say you're here? Okay. I can already see quite a few guys going, I thought I was prepared for this June exam, right? I thought I was prepared, and then I walked in there and I was, what the hell? Okay. Anybody else here for another reason? Except the maths paper wrecking you. Your maths teacher sucks. Ooh! Fortunately, we didn't get that on camera, so that's okay. We don't know who you are, so that's okay. Okay? Your math teacher sucks. I can't do anything about that. Humble apologies again. Okay? Ladies and gents, anybody else here for another reason? Anybody else? No one here to meet new friends or possible life mates. Now you guys are going, whoa, sir, I'm only 17 or 18. Whoa. Okay? And it's interesting how culture has changed, because about 500 years ago, about all of you would have been married already and have had 1 or 2 kids. That's the reality, but let's not go into LO for this moment. Okay. Ladies and gents, for me, there's a much bigger picture at stake than just your exams, or your teacher that sucks, or meeting a life partner, or at least just friends. Okay, let's go towards friends. Okay? There's a much bigger picture for me at stake than just that. For me, the much bigger picture is your future. Because, and you guys are going to get to know me, that I am packed full of life lessons that I would like to give through to you guys throughout this week. Because you must understand that everything you've done so far in your life is just the foundation of where you want to go. It's just the foundation of the building that you would like some people to see of your life. You are only barely done with the foundation now. And the habits that you are forming or have formed is either going to predict success or failure in your future. Now, I know I'm getting real very quickly, but that's what is at stake. It's not just an APS score of 40 or an APS score of 39, because I need that to get, guys, there's a much bigger picture. Because I know of a lot of kids that achieved top 5 in their school, but get into varsity and they fall out. And then what does that help you? I promise you, no one has ever come to me when I've applied for a position and asked me, where did I rank in matric? They've never asked me that. What they've asked me, what degree do you have behind your name? What experience do you have? It's not about just your exams. It's about what's coming after matric. So what we are going to start with this morning is a bit of a different approach that I would like you guys to adopt. Now, I've developed this process of how do I solve mathematical problems. Because I promise you, if you are a 50 to 60%er, even if you are maybe an 80%er, but usually the guy's going between 50 and 70 in maths, one of the biggest problems that I have found in the past is you get a question and you have no place where to start. You sit in your exam and you go, I don't even know where to begin. And then you just write a whole lot of stuff down and go, I hope and pray that I'm going to get something right. Okay, if I write enough nonsense, my teacher is going to give me marks. And I understand that approach, but I can promise you it's not the right approach. I always refer back, not last year, we had a girl at the previous school where I was at. She was the hardest working learner I've ever come across. Before an exam, you guys know the examination aid textbooks that has 10 paper 1 and 10 paper 2 question papers. She would come to me and go, so do you have extra exam papers? I'm like, but we gave you guys that book. She's like, I've worked through the whole book. Okay? There's a website. Then I tell her about an amazing website I'll tell you guys about later on that has like hundreds of question papers. And before the prelim exam, she'd come and she'd be like, so do you have extra exam papers? I'm like, but I gave you that. And she's like, but so I've worked through so many of those papers. Don't you have extras? I'm like, no. But in an exam, she would sit with the problem of, I marked a prelim, and she would write 3 pages on a 5-mark question and still get it wrong. Not because she isn't prepared, because of her approach towards the question. Because you've got to understand that how maths marking works is if you're not going in the right direction, we don't give you any marks. It doesn't help just writing stuff down and hoping and praying, because if you're not going in the right direction, we put a red mark through it and we say sorry. That's how it works, because otherwise everyone can write anything down and we've got to give marks. So what I would like to share with you guys this first half an hour or so is something that I promise you, if you apply this not just to maths but to your life, I promise you, you will have more success than before. Now, I have termed this approach the monkey behind the mountain. Okay, the monkey behind the mountain. Now, it's a bit of an oddball approach, and I promise you, initially you are going to feel like, but sir, it's wasting time. But I promise you, as you get more practiced in this, you're going to see how much this helps you. Now, the monkey behind the mountain comes from this problem. When you guys practice for exams, and you work through textbooks, all of the maths questions looks as beautiful as that monkey that is on the... He's so cute. Am I right? Then when you get to the exam, that monkey, all of a sudden, looks like that. Am I right? But so I don't even see the monkey. Exactly. I don't even see the stuff where I'm going. I don't even know because this doesn't look familiar. So I'm used to that. How many of you have felt that way when you get back to after a maths paper and you go to your teacher and you go, what the hell? Sir or ma'am, you never taught us this stuff. I've never seen this stuff before. Because you look at that problem, but the teacher actually expects you to find the monkey behind the mountains. So now the question is, what do I mean by the monkey behind the mountains? There's two things in the scenario. Number one, the monkey. Okay? The monkey is... Let's just wait for them to come in. It's 100%, no worries. Okay? There we go. Okay? The monkey behind the mountain is a process of thought, where the first question you must always ask yourself is, what is the monkey? In other words, what is the real thing that a teacher is asking me to solve? Okay, now it can be something as easy as solve for x, or it could be something as difficult as where they say, find the range. Or it could be something like, where is this thing undefined? Now, finding the monkey, taking 2 seconds or 5 seconds to write down what the monkey is, number one, gives you direction. And it also then, you know what your final step should be. If it says solve for x, then you know your final thing should be, therefore, x is this. Or if they ask you to find a length, therefore, the length is equal to this. Because I've had countless students in my class that have come 95% of the way, but they didn't finish the sum off. But if you don't know where to start, finding the monkey is a worthwhile thing because it gives you direction. Because it doesn't help, Sunshine, if you want to go to Cape Town and you get on a taxi to Pietersburg, to Polokwane. But that's what some of you guys do. You get a maths problem and then you just jump into the thing. Halfway you go, but I'm further away from the solution than I was at the beginning. And then you've wasted 5 minutes of your exam, and then you don't finish and you go to the teacher, yeah, but the test is too long. Yes, that was my grade 9s. Okay. Now, ladies and gents, the second part of the thing is, so the monkey gives you direction, but the mountains tells you which tools in your toolbox do you need to do. The mountains gives you the problems that you need to sort out to get to the real problem. So it's all the obstacles that's standing in the way of the real solution. And here comes the thing. The better you are at listing these things down, the more marks you're going to get. Because the mountains are where we give marks. Those obstacles that's in your way is where 80 to 90% of all the maths marks goes into. And the better you are at writing them down, the better you know, oh, I've got to use this. I've got to use this. If I continue with my analogy of going to Cape Town, if you want to go to Cape Town, what are you going to do? How are you going to get there? You can book a flight or climb on a bus. Are you going to go on your bicycle? You can get there. I promise you, my one friend ran to Cape Town. I think it took him about 20 or 30 days. He ran to Cape Town. Okay? Dead serious. He still even thinks now that he was crazy. He got there, but it takes me 2 hours if I climb on an airplane. The same thing happens in maths. If you don't see the obstacles and you just run into this thing, you sometimes take 3/4 of a page on a 3-mark sum. Where if you took 2 minutes, or not even 2 minutes, half a minute to properly think about how I get there, you get the right tool to get to where you want to go. My one friend studied to become a doctor. He's now a specialized surgeon. And I asked him, what's the difference between a doctor that gets 60% and a doctor that gets 80 to 90%? And he said to me, it's simple. The doctor gets 60%, can give you 3 possible diagnoses for a specific set of symptoms. Where a doctor that gets 80 to 90 gives you 5 or 6 possibilities. But the problem is, you need to know your theory to be able to apply this correctly. And that's where a big problem lies, unfortunately, at the moment. Because even my grade 8 and 9, but maths is not a study subject. Maths is the subject with the most amount of studying in all of your subjects. There you go. But I've got history, sir. Yes. And I've got maths. In maths, you've got to know 12 years worth of work to write your final exam. In history, you only need to know 1 year's worth of work. But the problem is, we don't know all our theory. But ladies and gents, that's why we are here. I'm not here to make you feel stupid, please. I'm here to maybe have a pit stop to say, there's still, listen to me carefully, everyone listening? 80% of your maths mark still lies ahead of you. 80%. Your final exam counts 75% of your year mark. Your prelim counts 30% of your portfolio. That means your portfolio, which counts 25, let's do the maths, 82.5% of your year's marks still lies ahead of you. But so I've sucked. I've only gotten 50%, but I need 60 or 70 to get into varsity. And you can still get that. I had a student who eventually pulled his finger out of his ear and jumped from 65 to 79% just in his final exam, because he actually started studying correctly. So what we are going to do now for the next 5 or so minutes is I'm going to give you guys a grade 11 problem. The grade 11 problem, and understand what we are going to do for this next coming few days, is I gave all of you, should have gotten one of these books that says Matric Revision. Understand that you are not going to find this book anywhere else, because I wrote this book myself. So please write your name somewhere big, because if someone else maybe loses theirs, they might come after yours. This is hot property. I'm just putting it out there. But ladies and gents, this book consists of 2 parts. Number 1, the front part, which is the theory part. Section A. which goes, I think, from page 3 to page 23 or 24. And then there's a part B, which is exercises. Now, what we are going to do is, I'm not going to go through all the theory. I really can't. But what we are going to do is, please, you have this open next to you. But I don't want you guys to now, please, go and actually solve this problem. We are going to do that, but let's go through the exercise. What is the monkey? In other words, what is the real thing that I would like to solve? Range. Now, what is the range of any relation, any functional graph? What y values? Let's be more specific. The y values of the graph, let's be more specific. Okay, thank you, here he's getting it. The maximum y value and the minimum y value. Because when I do range for my students, I tell them, write it in interval notation. Y is an element of minimum and maximum. Automatically, now I know where I've got to go. I know where I've got to go. I've got to find y values. But now what are the mountains? What are the mountains? Come on, guys, it's kind of logic. What are the two things that I actually need to determine? The minimum and the? Well, they are my two mountains. Minimum and maximum. But now let's drill deeper. Let's not stop there. If I look at this graph, there's two things. There's a minimum. I know the minimum of my graph is negative infinity. How do I know that, Sunshine? What kind of a graph is it? A negative graph. Be careful, you've got to look at your words. It's not a negative graph because it actually does go positive at times. The shape of the graph is, it's an upside down parabola, a frowning parabola. So will it have a minimum value? No. There, I've already solved one of the mountains. But now here comes the tricky part. What about the maximum? It's turning point. Okay, so the maximum is at the turning point, right? Now I've got to ask myself, and here's now another mountain. How do I determine the turning point? Okay, so now, and here, if you are in 80% and you want to go to 90 or 95, what are the three methods to find the turning point of any graph? First derivative equal to 0. So there's the 1. What is the second one? Be more specific, my man. X is equal to negative b over 2a. And thirdly, thank you, complete the square. I know that you guys hate completing the square. I know it. But listen to me carefully. When you go and study engineering, completing the square is part and parcel of integration. So you have to be able to do that with your eyes closed. But now that's only to find the x value. You still then haven't answered the question, which is the y value. So now I need to determine the y value, which either I could do by subbing in f of whatever, or by just looking at the square that you've completed. If you're an 80 to an 85%, my suggestion to you is, in any sum you do, find at least 2 methods to do it. Because that pushes you to not just fall into a rhythm, so that when we ask you something weird, you are fully practiced. Now, ladies and gents, here comes the trick. I have now laid out for you the whole road you need to take to actually answering the question. You need to find an X value. Then you need to find the Y value for the maximum. Then you need to write it in a proper format. You guys are all with me? Go for it. I'm giving you guys 3 minutes. Please write down for me the range of that specific graph. It's about half a minute left. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's get started. I'm going to go towards x equal to negative b over 2a. Okay, if you went towards derivative, that's 100% right. If I were you, I would actually just always go towards derivatives. For turning points, for minimums, for maximums, go towards differentiation. I'm not going to go there because we're only doing differentiation tomorrow. Okay? So for today, I'm going to go towards going x is equal to negative b over 2a. Now, x is equal to negative 2 over 2 times negative 1. Now, please, I'm looking more at the ladies than I am at the men because the men are lazy, the ladies are not. Sorry if that sounds sexist at all. Do not, listen to me carefully, do not write out every single step of your working out. Go to your calculator and get an answer. So this answer is 2 over negative 2, so it's negative 1. Let's quickly pause for a moment. What have I now gotten? It's not just the x value of the turning point. What else do we call it? The axis of symmetry. Okay, so there's another thing that you've just got to put a pin in it. The axis of symmetry. Now to get the y value, I do f of negative 1, which is again negative 1 squared, minus 2 times negative 1 plus 5. Again, don't go and write out every step. Go in your calculator, get an answer, especially in your exams. So this is 1, so it's negative 1 plus 2. So this is 1 plus 5 is 6. So what do I have? I now have negative 1 comma 6 as being my turning point. And again, half of the matrics go, woo, and they go over to the next question. But we actually haven't answered the question. The question is determine the range. So now I know, because that's my monkey, that has to be my final step. So y is an element of, now it doesn't have a minimum, so it's negative infinity. The highest value it goes is 6, and it actually does touch that 6. Now I've asked myself, have I answered the question? Yes. I have now answered the initial question, and I move on to the next one. Please, guys, take the few minutes extra in your exams to properly analyze questions. If you are going to learn that, good morning. Okay? If you are going to learn to analyze the questions, I promise you, you're going to have more success. Especially in your maths preparation. Learn this technique because, again, you'd want to go in the right direction. Now, ladies and gents, I just want us to hit the pause button for a moment. Remember what I said earlier. There's a much bigger picture than just maths. For those of you that would like to make a difference in this life, whom of you would like to one day actually make an impact with your life? And it's not, I'm not saying necessarily become Bill Gates and be a philanthropist and give money to everyone. I'm saying if you want to make an impact, change the world around you, please put up your hand. Okay? Now, please don't feel pressure. Just because your friend does it, I have to do it, okay? Nothing personal. If you just want to make money and be balling, you know, that's fine if that's for you. That's not for me, okay? I gave that dream up to become a teacher. Maybe one day I'll be balling when I write all of my textbooks and, publish all my videos, but maybe one day. But ladies and gents, if you want to make an impact in this world, in other words, solve problems in the world around you, how good you are with this is going to determine how successful you are. Constantly in South Africa, there's all of these fights. But sir, we want to solve poverty in South Africa. Okay, there's our monkey. We want to solve poverty. Now, how do I solve poverty? Now, Mr. Mandela said the only way out of poverty is by education. Now, the thing is, how do I solve education? Now, there's your one mountain. Okay, well, I need properly furnished schools. I need props. Okay, there's a lot of money involved there. A lot of players involved there. I need properly trained teachers. All of the universities have to get involved. Can I take you guys further? To get proper education, you need to solve the family situations in South Africa. If you want to solve education, you need to look at the kids, the people that are raising the kids in the townships before they are 6 years old when they go to grade 1. The poor gorgors who are sitting and have got no education, but they've got to look after 10 or 15 kids. All they do is let the kids play and learn nothing. Where the kids that are privileged to live in the city and have creches and who have all of these Montessoris and stuff get taught already about squares and rectangles and counting that is not taught in a lot of the townships. Now you're talking about solving that. All of a sudden, just trying to solve poverty is becoming a problem that's much bigger than yourself. All of a sudden, solving poverty, it becomes such a big problem that you might be completely daunted by it. But what I've said to my wife as well in the past week, when you're sitting with these things, the smaller you can break your mountains into small little bitty pieces, the better a roadmap you're going to have to actually solve your big problems. If you want to work with people and you want to solve people's problems, this process will take you down to the root of a lot of the problems. And by addressing the roots, we can address the rest. So this is not just a technique. This is a technique that I live out every day. When anybody comes to me and says, "Sir, I've got a problem," I've tried to drill down as deep as possible so I can see where do we start so that we can address the actual problem that's now ahead of us. So I encourage you guys and the listeners at home to really, as you go through this week, to be careful of just falling into the rut of running into questions, but to take a moment, take that step back and say, okay, what do I need to do? Or where do I need to go? What do I need to solve to get there? To get into that process. Because again, you are building for your future. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, now I'm done with my allo lesson for this morning. Okay, I know some of you would like me to do allo instead of maths. But ladies and gents, what we are going to do now is we are going to look at past exam papers. We are going to start looking at funny kind of questions and not always ha-ha funny questions. Okay? But I'm going to more and more start looking at questions that's a bit strange because they test more your thinking than they test just the maths. Because the IEB, how many of you are in private schools that write IEB final exams? Okay, those of you that are in IEB schools, they are making it their mission to test the thinking that goes on behind math. So you've got to get used to it. Public school guys, ditto for you guys. They are bringing more and more questions in that stretch your thinking than just pure rote learning, just pure solving X and, determine equations of graphs. They ask it in funny ways. So for the rest of this week, we are going to be looking at those kind of questions. And please, I encourage you, if I go too fast, stop me. Just go, whoa, sir, whoa, 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 whoa. What you just said, no clue, no clue. It just went, shoo. And I'll gladly explain it over again. If you don't have the confidence of putting up your hands and going, "Sir, I don't understand," because maybe the guy or the gal that you'd like is sitting next to you, okay, then come and talk to me afterwards. Come and talk to me. Or come to me and say to me, "Sir, in this past June exam, I got this question. I had no clue where to go." And I'll gladly sit for the few minutes with you. Gladly, guys, gladly. So our first question is not in your books at all. Your first question comes from, I think it was an IEB question of a year or two ago. Okay? Ladies and gents, I am going to give you guys 10 minutes. I'm going to give you 10 minutes, and please don't feel isolated. Sit with your buddy. Talk to them. Ask them what the hell's going on. And if you still get stuck, please put up your hand and I'll gladly come and help you. Okay. You've got 10 minutes, ladies and gents. Go for it. Okay, there we go, ladies and gentlemen. It is quite a bit larger now. Okay, so the first question is, give the domain and range of f, the sketched graph. The second question is, determine the value of f of negative 1 times by f to the negative 1 of negative 2. And then the C question is, would f to the negative 1 of x be a function? Explain your answer. And then the D part is, for which values of x will f to the negative 1 be decreasing? Again, if you get stuck, go and do the monkey behind the mountains. Good morning, gents. Welcome, welcome. Misery. You don't have to determine the equation of any graphs. I'm just putting it out there. Guys, it's only 2 marks for mark allocation. Please don't go and try and determine the equation of that thing. Unless you are an AP Maths candidate, then you shouldn't be able to. Okay, you shouldn't be able to. So would you guys like another minute or 2 to try and solve this? Okay, I'm giving you guys another, let's make it 3 minutes. And if you really get stuck somewhere and you don't know where to go, put up your hand really and I will come and assist you. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, eyes on the front for me, please. Okay, eyes to the front, and let's have a look at this question. Again, ladies and gents, here is where exam techniques come in. Because I saw quite a few of you, that's why I jumped in and I said, please don't determine the equation. Because to determine the equation of that thing, guys, is going to take you at least half a page. If you are lucky enough to find it. Okay, because here's the problem. If you made the assumption that f has a parabolic part, you might be wrong. How do you know? How do you know that's not maybe a part of a cubic graph? You don't know. You've got to be careful. But the mark allocation should guide you. If I look at the first question most of you would have gotten right, hopefully. If I look at the domain, x is an element of, let's look at the lowest x value. If I look on my graph, the lowest x value, if I look right to the left, is -5. Okay? But my graph does include -5. It does. At some point, it does include it. And then the highest x value, if I look far on the right, is at x equal to 1. But it doesn't include that one. If I look at the range of f, the range of f is y is an element of, the lowest y value is at -4, right at the bottom, and it doesn't touch it because it's not included. The highest y value is at 6. And again, it doesn't touch 6. Okay. Now, ladies and gents, for some of you, I gave a nice little tip for the B part, because at the B part is where stuff starts to become funky. Because now at the A part it was easy. The B part, they start talking about f to the -1 of x. Please, again, here's where theory is important. F to the -1 of x means what? Okay, we call it the, that's where we've got to be careful. It's the inverse function. Okay?
They said we should ask which of the students are here for the Beeld Winter School.
For the Beeld.
Yes.
Okay, is there any of you students, sorry ladies and gents, that are here for the Beeld Winter School? Not for the JuniorTukkie Winter School? Okay, no, apparently no one. Cool. Okay. Now, ladies and gents, if I look at f to the -1, it means inverse function. What happens with inverse functions? X and y swap around. So your output values become your input, and your input becomes your output. Now, here again, I have found a lot of you guys try and do this stuff in your head. I have learned long time ago in my life that I don't do too much in my head, because, especially in exams, your head is not thinking straight. So because they're asking me things about f to the -1, why don't I draw it? I've got all the necessary information. Let me draw f to the -1, and then I look from there. So if I look at f to the -1, I'm going to take every coordinate starting, well, anywhere. I'm going to start at the top with that open circle, which is at the coordinate -5 and 6. And what happens to them? X and y swap around. So it's going to be at x equal to 6 and y equal to -5, open circle. And again, I'm doing it very rough. Ladies, please don't go and do it on scale, okay? Please don't. It takes time. Then I'm going to look at the second coordinate that is important. That's at -3 and 2. So I'm going to swap that around, and that is at 2 and -3. And I know there's simply a line that connects them. Then I look at my my turning point, what looks like a turning point, which is at -5 and 0. So now it's going to be at 0 and -5. And again, it looks like kind of a turning point. Then, the next point that's important is at -3 and -2. So it's going to be at -2 and -3. And again, it's a parabolic part. It looks like parabola joining it there. Then, the last important part is at 1 and -4. So I'm going to swap it around, so it's going to be at -4 and 1. So it kind of looks like that. You will see it's not on scale, and scale doesn't matter for me at all. Now, I've got a much clearer picture to answer B, C, and D. Because if I look at the first one, it tells me f of -1 times by f to the -1 of -2. I apologize, that bracket 2 should be the mark allocation. But if I look at this, now I look at my graph. Let's go to my graph that's drawn at the top. This is now my y value on the sketch. What is the y value when x is -1? So when x is -1, I go down and I look and my answer is -3. Everyone's all right with that? Now, I have a sketch for f to the -1. I have a sketch for f to the -1. So if I now ask myself, what is the x value when y, what is the y value when x is -2? And my answer is -3. Oh, but then that is simply 9. And there I've answered the question. Ladies and gents, that's why everything in maths builds up towards graphs. Everything in maths builds towards graphs. Even when you go to engineering, everything goes about graphs, because if I understand a graph, then I understand what's happening, and I can do all the maths that goes on behind it. Is there anybody that doesn't understand where I get these values of -3 and -3 from? You guys all waxed. You guys all good. If you, please, again, for the guys that came in new, guys, if you get stuck, if you don't understand, please put up your hands. I don't want to move on before everyone's good. Okay. Great. Seems like everyone's good. Now they ask you a question. Would f to the -1 of x, my function that I've drawn for you guys, would that be a function? How do I test for a function? By drawing a vertical line. Is there any part where my vertical line crosses my graph more than once? No. So is it a function? Yes. But now you've got to be careful. They say also explain your answer. Now you are not allowed to these days anymore say it passes the vertical line test. You've got to describe the relationship between the x values and the y values. Now it's for let me say this. There are certain x values where certain y values where one y value gives you more than one x value. So my answer for C is yes, it is a function, but y, it is a many to one function. In other words, many x values gives me one y value. And those functions are, or those relationships are functions. And there I've got my 2 marks. Without the sketch, good luck. It's all I'm saying to you. Without drawing f to the negative 1, good luck trying to analyze this. And that's what some of you try to do, or most of you. And that's okay, that's why we are here. Okay? Now, the next question is just as easy. The D part of the question. The D part of this question, for which values of x will f to the negative 1 of x be decreasing? Okay, now here again, monkey and mountain. I want to know x values. So I know my final answer has to be x values. But the mountains. How would I know whether a function is decreasing? Say again? Okay, as x increases, the y values decrease. That's visually. How about algebraically? Come on. Yes, sir. Fantastic. That now can be interpreted either algebraically or visually. As my gradient of my graph is negative. Now, how do I determine the gradient of my graph? First derivative. That is now algebraically. But why wouldn't I go there? Because I don't have an equation, guys. Guys, you can see it. Thank you. It's kind of awesome, but it's logic. But again, if you're in the exam, logic doesn't always work so nice. Because you're not thinking straight. Okay? So you've got to say, I can go towards first derivative and put it less than naught, but now I first got to get fx for 2 marks. Think carefully. Not wrong, but think carefully. So in other words, I'm just going to look, where is my graph decreasing? Well, there it's going down and down and down. But here all of a sudden it's going. So I don't want that part. So again, here the graph is decreasing. So that's going to be my answers. Now I'm going to give it in interval notation just because I like interval notation. For x between negative 4 and 0, it touch, this one actually is wrong, it should be open, and none of you correct me, cease. Cease. Okay, and it does touch 0. But then again, I'm going to say or from 2 to 6. And it doesn't touch 6. It decreases only at those parts. Ladies and gents, please, when working with inverses, don't try and do it in your head. Don't try and prove how smart you are. Well, so I can do it in my head. It doesn't matter. In the exam, you want to be able to show them. So I always advise you, if you have a sketch and they ask you about the inverse, always, always, always draw the inverse. And it's easy. Swap all the x's and y's and draw a rough sketch. Any questions on this specific question? Okay, you guys all right? Everyone all right? Okay. Now, ladies and gents, our next question, our next set of questions is going to come out of your out of that little book that I handed out for you guys. So you can open for me. It's on about page 25. Okay? It is on exactly page, let me just see. There it is. It is on page 25, yes. On page 25, question 3 of the book. For those guys tuning in via live stream, you guys can copy this down and we will try and make sure that this notes are also available electronically. So please make sure that by this afternoon also you download the things. You download the notes so you can follow me from tomorrow onwards. Ladies and gents, I am going to give you guys, let's make it 10 minutes to get for me as far as possible with this question 3. Go for it. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, 10 minutes is gone. Okay, I just quickly want to say something. You guys are going to realize the maths in this week is going to fly by. We've already been busy for an hour and 20 minutes this morning. There's only 40 minutes of the class left. Okay? Never thought a double period would go by this fast. Okay, but ladies and gentlemen, I know that sometimes you're going to feel like, but sir, you're not giving me enough time to go through this. I know. Hashtag sorry, not sorry. Okay? I would love to give you like half an hour, but unfortunately our time is precious. So I would like to work through this, and I'm not going to work through every single thing, every single step, but I am going to go through the basics. So let's start with the first question. Determine the length of AB. Please, ladies and gents, forget about analytical geometry for now. I know you guys have the length formula, and that's fine. Okay, don't stress. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, what I'm rather going to do now, there's going to be a bit of an interruption at this present moment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you guys let's make it another 2 minutes. While the rest of the gang moves in. Give you guys another 2 minutes to work through this question. When we're done with it, 2 minutes, then we're going to work through it. Have fun. For those that have just walked in, we are busy on page 25 with question 3, and I am going to start working through them in about a minute or so. So you can open so long on page 25 and just follow what I'm going to do with these guys. Okay, there we go, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get moving. Okay, so I would like you guys, eyes on the front for me. I am going to verbally, listen carefully, I'm going to verbally go through A and I'll look at B, and then at C we're going to get stuck for a little bit, because I would like to kind of make C a bit larger than it is. So let's start with question A, the length of AB. The monkey, AB's length. So I know my final answer has to be AB equals to so many units. The mountains, what is A and what is B? A and B are the x-intercepts. How do I determine x-intercepts of a graph? Make y equal to 0. If I make y 0, if I make f of x 0, I'm going to get two values. X equal to -1 or x equal to 3. Now, if you are unsure about how I got that, please come and see me. Okay? X is -1 or 3. Again, for the 80 and 90% here, guys, you've got to be able to solve it on all three different ways. Factorization, completing the square, as well as the formula. AP Maths, guys, your calculator, this FX991ZA is your best friend. Okay? Can solve the equation for you. Oh, I want that one. Okay, so AB is 4 units. Okay. Now, ladies and gents, here again, when we look at the B part of the question, all of you should be able to do it on at least 2 different ways. Because if I look at the coordinate of C, what makes C so special that I ask it of you? It is the turning point of the graph. How do I do the turning point of the graph? We did it earlier. X equal to -b over 2a. So I can either go x equal to -b over 2a, or first derivative equal to 0, or there's a fourth one. Guys, I already have the 2 x-intercepts. For a parabola, the turning point is slap dam in the middle of the 2 turning points. So I can just get, sir, can I just get the middle point, the midpoint between the 2 x values? Yes. Guys, listen to me carefully. If I was an examiner, which I am not, you guys can be grateful I'm not sometimes, I would give you a parabola with the 2 x-intercepts and ask you for the axis of symmetry without having an equation. Because it's just the midpoint between the 2 x-intercepts. So you've got to remember that method because it could be expected of you. So in any case, the midpoint between 3 and -1 is x equal to 1. Now again, have I answered the question? No, because I'm asking you for the coordinate. So I have to determine f of 1, which is -4. So therefore, C is 1, -4. Everyone's all right with that? Now again, for those guys that weren't here earlier, the first example that I did, I asked them for range. But to have range, I need max and minimum. In this case, my minimum value for y is -4. So the range of f, okay, it goes from -4, which is my lowest. My highest doesn't have. It touches -4. It never touches infinity. And there I've got my range. Oh, and I forgot y is an element of. That is if I asked you for the range. Learn to break these into smaller issues, smaller problems that you can solve. Now when we get to the C part, I'm just quickly going to redraw F. So there's -1, there's 3, there's 1 and -4. There is F. Okay? My question now, if I ask you, where is f of x greater than 0? Again, what does f of x represent? The y values. Okay, guys? What does f to the -1 of x represent? The x values. Have you guys thought about that? Because remember, f to the -1 means inverse. So x and y swapped around. So f to the -1 of x represents x values. Tomorrow we're going to work with f accent and f double accent. So derivatives. What does derivatives represent? We'll have a look at that tomorrow. Okay, don't stress. Don't get heart palpitations now, please. Okay. So where is the y values positive? So now I just go to my graph and I look. Here my y value is positive, 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 negative, 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 positive, 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 positive. So now the question is, where are the y values positive? On this side of -1 and on that side of 3. Well, that's my answer. Those are my two answers. So again, I love interval notation. That's just me. If you don't like it, there's forgiveness. So x for this little one, lowest value is -infinity. It never touches that. The highest part in here, it goes up to -1 and it's not included. Why is it not included? Because I don't say equal to 0. I just say greater than 0. Or, again, it starts now from 3 and it doesn't stop being positive. Okay, everyone's all right with that? Okay. Now I'm going to spice it up. I'm going to spice it up by asking you the following question. Where is f of x times by g of x greater or equal to 0? This is now, can I say, C2. And then I'm going to ask you guys C3, f of x divided by g of x greater or equal to 0. Now again, ladies and gents, all of you have seen these questions, and what have they now done this year? They've introduced gradients as well. Why? Because we can. Because we can. Because now I'm testing your understanding. And I know that you guys, some of you freak out. You have a mini meltdown session in the exam when this comes. Okay, I've seen it. Either that or you just go, oh no, sir, next question. I hear an affirmation here. Yes, sir. Okay, I've done that many a time. Okay, ladies and gents, after today, I hope it won't be necessary again. Because I would like to help you guys to analyze this. And I'm telling you, it is the easiest questions if you understand them. So what is your name? You just said yes. Say again? Bongani. Which means? But what does it mean? Thankful. I'm thankful that you're here. Okay. Ladies and gents. Now, Bongani, you just broke the ice. I'm just putting it out there. Everyone's awake now. I want to ask you a question. And please don't forget about the graph now. When is something times by something else positive? When is something times by something else going to give me a positive? When I have a positive times by a or a? Okay, a negative times by negative. So those are my two options, right? So in other words, I'm asking you, where is fx positive and yx is positive at the same time? Or g of x, I mean. And here comes the other thing, or where is fx negative and g of x is negative at the same time? Because that's my two options, right? So what am I going to do now is I'm going to draw g of x in, and I'm going to be nice. It's not in my nature to be nice, but I'll be nice and say that this part here cuts it at negative 1, 5. Okay, how did I get that? I just got the x-intercept for gx. So make y naught, solve for x. I'm being a bit nice to you today. Okay, now let's analyze. I'm going to do the analysis of g of x in blue. Here, Bongani, are the y values positive or negative? It's positive, right? And positive. And here they are. And negative, 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 negative. Now all I'm going to do is I am basically going to go and say, let me break this thing up into the important sections. There, there, there. Okay? If I look at this section here, do I have a positive and a positive? A positive y and a positive y? Yes. So this section works for me. But now here I've got a positive and a. So does it work? No. But what about here? Now here I've got a negative and a negative. Does it work? And I've got a negative and a negative. Does it work? And a negative and a negative? A positive and a negative? So, Argent, there's my two answers. That interval there, as well as that interval there. And that's all you've got to write down. So it's for x, this interval is smaller or equal to negative 1, 5. Or, I'm going to write it in interval notation now for you, or between negative 1 and 3. For x between negative 1 and 3. But now the thing is, why do I include? Because it is included here. And there, I've got it, I can write this as x is an element of negative infinity up to negative 1, 5 included, or between negative 1 and 3 both included. And there's my answers. Is it necessary to run away from these questions? If you analyze it properly, no. If you're just going to stare at it, then yes, please run away. Okay, now, Bongani, I'm going to pick on you a little bit more. Okay. When is something divided by something else positive? Negative over a or a? that's exactly the same. Oh. What magic is this, huh? The only difference is what? What's the only difference? The zero value here. So the only difference is g of x may not be. So the only difference is that. Because that is where g of x is 0. On my graph, if I look at this, on my graph, it is that point there where gx crosses my x-axis. So all the rest remains exactly the same. So this is some magic. Can I divide, can I times, it stays the same? Yes, because whether I times to get a positive or whether I divide to get a positive, the answer is the same. So is it more manageable at this moment? Exactly. Now, ladies and gents, please, 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 don't go and do this by force. In other words, don't go and throw in equations and try and solve it algebraically. Not that it is impossible, but you are going to make your life extremely difficult. Now, let's quickly have a look at D. I'm going to laugh because I caught all of you out a little bit. Okay, I'm laughing because I caught all of you out. Now you guys are going, no sir, not me. I knew exactly what I was doing. If I look at g of x equal 4x negative 4, or was it? Yeah, negative 4x minus 6. How do I determine the inverse of that? Swap the x and the y. Okay? So in other words, x equal to? Okay, fantastic. Let's go over to question E. But sir, you didn't get y alone. Guys, I never told you to get y alone. I never said write it in the form y equals wada. If I don't say that, then that's my final answer. I told you I caught all of you out. Ladies and gents, be careful, read your questions properly. Okay. If I had to get y alone, then I go x plus 6 is equal to negative 4y. And I divide by negative 4, so it's negative, whoa. Relax, sir, relax. Okay? I do this. I write each of them over 4. So I'm going to go negative 6 over 4 equal to y, which I could simplify. Why do I do that? Why don't I write the whole big thing over negative 4? Because now I can analyze that that is a straight line with a negative gradient that has a y-intercept of negative 3 over 2. It's just for my own analysis. In the exam, both would be marked right. Putting it out there. Now let's look quickly at E. Again, ladies and gents, a lot of you guys want to find or want to determine the equation of f to the negative 1. You don't have to, because I only ask you for a sketch of the inverse. So in other words, all I'm going to do, swap all the x's and y's around. So my x-intercepts are going to become my y-intercepts. My y-intercept is going to become my x-intercepts. So it goes through negative 1 and 3. My y-intercept is at negative 3. So this is then going to become my x-intercept. Turning point is at 1 comma negative 4, so it's at negative 4 comma 1. Something roughly like that is my equation. That's my graph. Okay. Everyone all right with this one? Wasn't difficult at all? Okay. Now, ladies and gentlemen, for tomorrow morning, I'm going to give you guys a little bit of homework. Now, I know it feels weird to get homework during the vacation. I just want you guys to go and finish this question 3 for me. There is E, F, and G. There's only F and G, actually. I would like you guys to go and finish those ones for me so we can come back tomorrow and work through them. Now, ladies and gents, I would like you guys to turn over for me in your book to question 12. This comes out of a previous year's IEB exam, a very typical section B type question. I am going to give you guys about 6 minutes to go through it because we only have 15 minutes of class left.
given
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's quickly, eyes on the front for me, please. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go through this, and I would love you guys to kind of, especially if you struggled with the first question, turn for me in your book. Those of you that are streaming in online, you guys can turn to your books tomorrow, or when you download it this afternoon, to page 4. Page 4. It says there how to determine the equation of parabola specifically. If I look at what we started with this morning, the monkey and the mountains, I'm going to start, ladies and gents, by first asking myself, where do I want to go? And I want to get to a point where I have y equal to ax squared plus bx plus c. That's my monkey. That is the real thing I want to solve. So no matter what I do, that's where I'm going towards. Now, excuse me, the question is, what are the mountains? Well, the coefficients. So A, B, and C are my mountains. So I have to try and get that one, and that one. Those are my 3 mountains. But now the question is, how do I do that? Now, on page 4, it says, when you determine the equation of a parabola, you've got 3 methods. Number 1, either you've given the x-intercepts, or number 2, you're given the y-intercepts, or number 3, please, I hope and pray you never get to do this in the exam, 3 random coordinates. Because then you've got to solve simultaneously. And that is a big mission. I've never seen them ask it because it's just too much. So if I look at this, what was given to you in that scenario? It says here, unfortunately seems like I left out a little bit of information there on the sketch. Sorry for the guys who signed in and were stuck. Sorry about this. The bit of information that they gave you was that A is the coordinates, 3, 0, and B is the coordinates, 7, 0. Now you've got to ask yourself, why is that important? Why is it important? Because those are the x-intercepts. So now if I narrow it down to one of those 3, I'm going to go automatically that I'm going to go to the formula. Y equal to A, x minus x1, x minus x2, and that is going to be x1, and that's going to be x2. So now the thing is, x minus 3, x minus 7. And this is just something, a nice little side note you can write down. When you are determining the equation of a graph, there's always 3 steps. And these 3 steps will come and help you if you're struggling with this section. The 3 steps are as follows. Number 1, write down or read off from the graph what you can. Is there something in that graph, an A, a B, or a C that I could just read off? And the answer is no. Then the second thing is go to a formula. In this case, the right formula would be this one, because I'm given the x-intercepts. The step 3 is sub in a coordinate. If you can't read off, you can't use a formula, sub in a coordinate. What other coordinate did they give me? They gave me E as 6, 6. So therefore, I'm going to sub in to x and y. I'm going to warn you guys, they love this. They give you, say, a hyperbola. They give you a hyperbola, and you are so used to reading off the asymptotes. But then they are sneaky. They don't give you an asymptote, but they give you a random other coordinate. And then you guys freak out. But sir, I can't do this. Never in my life have I ever not been able to read off from a graph. So what? Sub in and solve. If you can't read off, sub in and solve. So I'm going to sub in y with 6 and x with 6. Okay? And then I'm simply going to solve for A. Oh, I am in too much of a hurry. I apologize. Okay. So this gives me 3. Sorry, I'm already going to the answer. So 3, and this gives me -1. So this gives me -3a. So a is -2. Please, 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 does it make sense? So how would I know? Guys, is that a smiling or a sad parabola? It's a sad parabola, so it has to be a -a. Please, make sure your answer makes sense. I've seen it, and I'm gonna finish off with this. We'll do B2 and 3 quickly tomorrow morning. Guys, your answers have to make sense. Because I mark matric exams at the end of the year, in AP Maths specifically. And I mark the finances section. And then we have kids who are trying to work out the installment on a house. Let's say a 500,000 rand house. And then we get answers over 20 years that kids say 120,000 rand per month. Does that make logical sense? No ways. But we get that, and then we say, but how do you write it down, but you don't think about it? But that's a different question. Now I've got A, and I'm going to finish off here. Y is equal to -2, x minus 3, x minus 7. Again, I want an equation. So I want this, but not this. So what must I do? Just multiply out. X squared, again that 3, I'll get it right. X squared minus 10x plus 21. And if I multiply this out, it's -2x squared plus 20x minus 42, and that is my y value, my y equation. Have I answered the question? But what if they asked me for the values of A, B, and C? I read it off. A is -2, B is 20, and C is -42. Ladies and gents, I encourage you guys, go and look for that monkey behind the mountain. Go and look for the problems and all the obstacles before you just run into the questions. I will look at the rest of question 12 tomorrow morning very early, as well as that question 3, the G part. Ladies and gents, it's been a fantastic 2 hours. There's an hour break now, then you guys are back here for physical science. So go and have a wonderful day. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Cheers.